it was like nerve-wracking, and that doesn't excuse my actions. Absolutely should have stopped, and I regret that every day. You understand?
And I appreciated you, apologizing in your opening statement. Very short statement, but I appreciate that you apologize to the victim and you understand this, and I guess since you do understand the severity of the situation now, but I mean, there was blood on the windshield. It was, I'm just having a hard time with, figuring out why you didn't stop.
Stamford police have arrested a young woman for a deadly pedestrian hit-and-run crash downtown. Police say the suspect not only fled the scene, but took measures to escape arrest. News 12 Connecticut's Marissa Alter reports from her arraignment.
Line 3 on the arraignment docket, Jaliyah Perez.
20-year-old Jaliyah Perez went before a judge on charges including misconduct with a motor vehicle and felony evading responsibility. Perez turned herself in to Stamford police Monday night in connection with a crash that killed a man walking downtown. It happened April 13th around 8 in the evening.
Pedestrian was crossing northbound across Tresser Boulevard at Washington going towards the government center, was struck by a vehicle that was traveling westbound on Tresser Boulevard.
Police say Perez was the driver and fled the scene, dumping her car and removing the license plates.
There was an absolute intent to not get caught in this situation, 100%. There was no way she did not know she hit somebody.
52-year-old Ronald Molina from Stamford suffered a serious head injury and later died at the hospital. Police say a traffic camera captured what happened. Perez had a green light, but Molina was in the crosswalk, which granted him right of way.
We know she did see him briefly. She did hit the brakes of what it looks like maybe an attempt to stop, but she was definitely going too fast.
The speed limit here is 30 miles per hour, but Perez's arrest warrant shows investigators estimate she was going 44 miles per hour. They concluded had she been going the speed limit, the crash wouldn't have happened or would have been way less severe.
That intersection is very well lit. It's right by the government center. There's streetlights everywhere.
Sergeant Jeffrey Booth says a witness got Perez's license plate, which police ran through the city's newly installed plate reader system. It determined the car they were looking for was a gray Acura. Officers later found it abandoned with damage to the windshield.
On video again, she's seen removing the license plates. And then another car comes and picks her up and takes her away from the location. Clear indication, Your Honor, this is not your simple evading where somebody bumps somebody in a parking lot, doesn't realize they hit them and drive away.
The judge agreed, setting bond at $200,000. In Stamford, Marissa Alter, News 12, Connecticut.
Now we are about to watch the parole hearing of this woman who only just recently ran over and killed a father of 3, left the scene before being arrested, and then subsequently sentenced. It was 7/25/2022, the arrest date, 7/10/2023, the date of sentence, and now, just it seems like a minute later, 6/21/2024, up for parole. Now, she was facing a maximum of 4 years, but while you're watching this parole hearing, I would just ask you to take a moment and think, how would you act if you had taken a life? What would you say to the parole board if you had taken away a father of 3 children from this world? How remorseful do you think you would be? Then settle in and watch this parole hearing. I'll share my thoughts about it at the end.
Hi.
Good morning.
What is your name?
Jaliyah Perez.
Oh, okay. So before we begin, I just wanted to ask you what name you prefer to use and what pronoun.
She, her, Jaliyah Perez is fine.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for asking.
All right, good morning. My name is Parole Officer Voice. Today is Friday. Connecticut Court of Pardons and Parole. Following board members are present this morning by stating their names on the record, certified they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available for information for preparation of this hearing.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Zaccanini.
Good morning, Deborah Smith-O'Mary.
Good morning, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Can you please state?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Can you please state your name and inmate number for the record?
Jaliyah Perez 440954.
Thank you. This hearing is being conducted in consideration of parole application for Jaliyah Perez in number 440954. She is serving a sentence of 10 years suspended, 3 to 5 years probation for tampering with evidence and evading responsibility. As of today, records reflecting parole eligibility of July 3rd, 24. There's no case. The defendant found that the plan in review shows that she school not to do any of the programs utilizing the women's risk needs assessment more of the offender's overall score for recidivating falls within the low range. Ms. Perez, this is your opportunity to tell the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
So I want to start by saying, I don't know who's watching, but I want to apologize for the situation and the night. I'm truly sorry, and I hope the family could hear me. I have never got the chance to say I'm sorry for that night. I never meant to hurt anybody, and if I could go back and fix everything, I absolutely would. I made a tragic mistake. It was a terrible accident, and I just want the people who are watching, if they are watching, to know that I apologize and I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you for your statement. We're going to ask you some questions, okay? Then we'll deliberate and give you our decision.
Okay.
We'll begin with Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Perez, this is, I just, reading this, I just couldn't figure it out. You hit something, you didn't know what you hit, but you took off. I'm just trying to get my head to wrap around that. Because if I've hit a bump in the road, a pothole, and I've had to stop to check my tire to make sure my tire is okay. So I'm not sure why you consider not stopping.
So that was honestly my worst mistake that I've ever made in my life. Initially, I was coming from work and I was going to my grandmother's house. I was caring for her, and I was on my way to make a right turn. And I'm gonna be honest, I was looking towards the right. I wasn't looking straight. I knew I was accelerating on a green light, so I looked to the right, and that's when I came in contact with the victim. But I wasn't looking at I didn't purposely mean to hurt or intent. And when that situation did happen, I panicked, and the car was kind of, out of control a bit. So I had my eyes closed. I didn't see the person and hit the person and intentionally, keep going. So when I was looking off to the right, I went to do the right turn. I stopped the vehicle, and I was panicking. I was really nervous. I didn't intend to hit that person. You understand? So when the whole situation had happened, it was nerve-wracking, and that doesn't excuse my actions. I absolutely should have stopped, and I regret that every day. You understand?
And I appreciated you, apologizing in your opening statement. Very short statement, but I appreciate that you apologize to the victim and you understand this, and I guess since you do understand the severity of the situation now, but there was blood on the windshield. It was, I'm just having a hard time with, figuring out why you didn't stop. And that you took off. Because you have no other criminal history. You haven't done anything else. You're young. You're very young.
In that moment, I could say I was nervous. I was confused. I've never been in a predicament like that. You understand? So
yeah, sure.
When the situation happened, I closed my eyes, you understand? And my vehicle was slightly out of control. When I made the right turn, I did stop. I proceeded to stop. But I was nervous of, what happened. I was just scared, I was scared in that moment.
You were scared and you made a bad choice to leave.
Yeah, I was, yes.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
And so you had some programming that was set up, right? But I didn't see that you've taken any of your programming.
My counselor had gave me my OAP, and he gave me the list of the things, the job and the voices, and he told me that they were not mandatory, but I told them that I want to take those groups, but they told me that there are people who are mandatory who are above me, who have to go before me. I did involuntary groups as in Standing Strong, anger management, other groups, but the ones on my OAP, my counselor informed me that I wasn't on the top of the list because they weren't mandated. They weren't mandatory for me. I told them that I wanted to take the groups, but he said I wasn't at the top of the list to take the groups because I wasn't, I guess, mandatory. This is what my counselor told me, because I asked a lot of questions when they gave me, my information and stuff. This is my first time being in jail, so I asked a lot of questions.
Yeah. Yeah, but this programs would have been probably very good for you, especially since one of the issues that we talked about was you made poor choice to leave and go, and good intentions, bad choices probably would have been a very good program for you to have gone to as well.
I do understand that, but I can say that I've grown a lot and I've learned a lot being in jail for this amount of time at a young age.
Share that with us. Share that with us what you've learned.
First of all, I've learned that life and being free, having my freedom is an opportunity and it's a blessing. That's for starters. Secondly, I've grown as a person. I've grown better as a person to control my emotions more better. And I've grown in aspects as in I'm the bigger person in situations. I just feel like I've mentally grown and I'm more mature now, you understand? Compared to when I first came into the jail. I've grown within and I've helped a lot of people in the jail as well, you know, who've been around me. And I feel like I'm at a whole nother level now. Like I did a lot of self-reflecting. I understand your perspective about me doing those groups, but I've took this crucial time, and I've used it to my advantage, and I've became mentally different. I'm just different. I'm more advanced now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am hearing some growth from you. But let's talk a little bit about your 4 disciplinary reports.
Okay.
The most recent one being in January.
Okay.
What was up with that? What's up with those?
So what was it?
The disciplinary reports that you got.
Tickets.
Fighting, tickets.
Okay, so that fighting ticket was before I got sentenced. I was inside the school, and I wasn't wanting to fight. They were fighting on me, but I did not want to fight. I don't want problems. I'm not a harmful person. I'm not a violent person. That was the only ticket that was, you could say, violent, but I wasn't an aggressor. I wasn't. The other ticket were out of place, right? Correct. Yeah. And malingering.
Yeah, that was the most recent one in January.
Yeah.
Yeah, malingering is when you're like walking slow. So like I did get a ticket for that, and then out of place, I got a ticket in the school. But on my behalf, I'm not trying to make excuses, but so we're supposed to sit in a section, and the section was full. So I asked one CO if I could sit on the other section. He said, yeah, but the other CO didn't know that CO gave me permission to sit in that section. So he considered me out of place because we're supposed to sit with our housing unit. But all the chairs were full in the school in my housing unit. So that was my most recent disciplinary ticket.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about then your relapse plan, your plan when you come out. What is it? What are your plans when you come out? Because like I said, you didn't take a lot of programming. So what is it you plan to do? You don't have a job lined up, right?
No, I do. I'm ready. If you guys give me this opportunity, I understand this is a privilege. I'm gonna go home. I want to live with my mom. She lives in New York City. That's where I originally lived. This is where I was born and raised. I came to Connecticut. I was caring for my grandma during COVID timing. That's how I became in Connecticut. I was caring for my grandma, but I would like to go back to live with my mom in New York City. My mom, she's a manager of a cafe that I would like to, get into that. Or I have a sister. She works in a company, Apple. She wants me to work with her or with my mom. I want to stay close by my family in New York City.
We had your aunt listed as your sponsor.
No,
Yeah.
father.
No, my mom was my first sponsor. My mom, her name's, you got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and me personally, like when I go home, I want to do like community service things, like that I want to do community service that I want to do, not like that's mandatory to me. Like I just want to give back because after this experience, I just look at life different now. Like, like I just want to be better. I want to be different. I want to do things differently. So I want to go back to New York City where I was born and raised. I have family out here. Like I said, I was out here. I was caring for my grandma. She was sick with the coronavirus during that time when I got arrested. So that's why I was initially out here. But I would like to go back there. And, I want to go to college as well. I want to go to college for information technology. I want to succeed. I just want to do better now. I was never a violent, harmful person. I went to college before, but like, I'm just different now. You understand?
I appreciate it. I appreciate you answering my question this morning. Okay. Listen, the
I
best
think-
of luck to you.
Thank you for your time as well.
Thank you. Ms. Palmieri?
I have no questions. Like Ms. Perez, he did really well answering Mr.
Yeah.
Rodriguez's questions, and you have no criminal record, and I do hope that you go back to school, regardless of
Yeah.
what happens today. You're very articulate and you express
Thank
yourself
you.
well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wish you would have taken some programs, to be honest, and stayed out of trouble. That would have made this an easier decision. Someone did lose their life, and there's always work to be done, Ms. Perez. So, get involved in any programs that you can. And, rules are a very big part of being successful, right? We all follow rules. And, once you can do that very carefully, I think life will be easier for you. Give us a few minutes to discuss your case. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish your sentence. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I do understand that. I'm well aware of that now. I am following the rules. In here rules are slightly different, and that's not an excuse, but
It is an
it's-
excuse. And I'm going to tell you that we're going to see 7 people here today who have 0 disciplinary reports. So if they can do it, you can too.
I understand. And I hope that doesn't, derail you from my character and my person. I'm really not a harmful person. I'm not a violent person, and I want that to be known, and I want it to be known that if you do give me this opportunity, I will take it, and I will be 100% grateful, and you will not have to see me here again, and you won't have to worry about hearing my name ever again.
All right. Give us a few minutes. We'll get back to you short with our decision.
Okay.
Mr.
thank you.
Rodriguez?
Madam Chair, this was a tragic
Yeah.
accident, leaving deceased. And he was very young. I mean, Ms. Taylor was very young. Ms. Perez very young in this particular situation. And was very articulate today, and
Yeah.
really had a way of, being able to kind of describe what she's been doing and what's been going
Yeah.
on with her in the facility, and kind of the way she's been looking at life, which sounds very different and very mature for a 22-year-old. I am concerned that she didn't take any programming. The program she didn't get to take the programming. I would have thought some of it would have been very good for her, but I would be willing to grant discretionary parole,
Thank you.
which would be when
July.
in July.
Okay. Ms. Palmieri is your name. Yeah.
Yes, so I am also willing to grant today. I do hear change. I do hear some growth. It goes beyond poor decision making.
Yeah.
The offense itself, but I do see that Ms. Perez is 20 years old when the offense occurred. I do think it would have been great if she could have taken good intentions, bad choices. I think she gets the idea of what voices would have helped her with. She definitely expressed her remorse and apology.
Mhm.
And I do hope that she's starting to appreciate that there are rules, regardless of whether you agree with them or not. Because her last disciplinary report was over a year ago. So
Mhm.
there is some growth in that respect as well.
Yeah.
So I would be willing to grant it.
Thank you. All right. In the matter of, what is your first name? Jaliyah?
Yes.
Yeah. Jaliyah Perez, MA number 440954. I'll make a motion to grant parole effective July 3rd, 2024 with the following conditions. You'll parole to interstate for New York. Halfway house placement if it's necessary. No driving without the parole officer's permission. Mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary. Is there anything else?
Not for me.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. We wish you the best. Do you understand?
I'm confused. Did I make it?
Yes. I made a motion
Thank
to
you.
grant parole July 3rd.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
I appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank
Keep
you.
working on yourself.
Thank you.
And as you can see, they granted parole. And I'll tell you what, like, it doesn't make any sense. But like, well, she was very articulate. It's like, what do you mean? What, you expect her to be like as dumb as a doornail? You get brownie points because you're able to somewhat articulate a point. They should have called her out on what I believe were lies about her not being able to get into her programs because they're saying, oh, no, you didn't have to do it because you had a short amount of time. Because we see it over and over and over again. women with the same length sentences, they finish all of their programs. We just had a parole hearing of a woman, same situation as her, actually, hit and run, killed someone, left the scene, was caught, and she did every program in the book. Maybe you saw the parole hearing. I'll try to remember to put a link to it in the description. And they just let her get away with it. Just let her get away with it. Be like, yeah, I never did it. And then second, let me hear my thing. No one's saying that you're a violent person. No one's saying that you have a long felony. You're young. You're 22 years old. But you you left the scene of the accident. Now here you are at your parole hearing, and you basically spit out a few words with no feelings, with no empathy. I want to apologize for the situation. I'm truly sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. I could take it back. I would. I am truly sorry. I made a tragic mistake. It was an accident, and I want them to know I'm sorry. You killed someone. You killed a father of 3. He has parents, siblings, friends. That's how you take it. That's what you would say. Imagine if you had run over a puppy and now you had to get in front of the owners and say that you were sorry about killing the puppy. I know me, I would have more emotion. Forget a puppy, even the squirrel that I run over. Like, these are things that you feel about. It haunts you. It eats away at you. You would cry. You would say his name. She literally talks about it like it's nothing. There's nothing there. And that's the thing with these things. It always blows my mind as to, look, accidents do happen. I'm surprised you don't see it more often where someone's making a right-hand turn. She had a green light. He had the crosswalk. She hit him. She killed him. You know, you would think that you'd see these things happening more often, but what you don't expect to see is someone showing nothing. She's not even trying to fake it, which I don't want to say, like, maybe, you just give her credit for not trying to fake it, but she's not even trying to fake it. And you might say, well, where are the victims? Where are the kids? Where are the people? It doesn't mean that they don't care. It could be that they were never notified. We see it time and time and time again. Connecticut, actually all the states we cover, they do a horrible job, or maybe just a subpar or a mediocre job. We see all the time where the victims come later on and say, we were never notified. I had someone contact me from a Louisiana parole hearing and say, and this guy's an advocate. This guy he runs groups about survivor groups. And he said he could not believe that he was not notified by Louisiana that his perpetrator was having a parole hearing. And we see it quite often. So no, they probably weren't notified. And you might say, well, again, look, first of all, I believe when people run and take away their license plate and it's all like that, I believe that there was probably something that they were hiding. Maybe they were intoxicated. Maybe they were on the devil's lettuce. There's no proof, of course, and she's not convicted for that. But that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that it wasn't panic. It's that they had to hide. And what we've learned from these parole hearings is that if you're drunk, it might be the best move for you to get away for that day, because you're going to get a lesser charge. It's possible that you'll get a lesser charge. At least that's what we see. Again, this is not legal advice. Of course, that would be an insane thing to do. You need to do the right thing. The right thing is to go and see the person that you hit and see if you can save a life. Maybe you can call 911 and get help there faster. Maybe you can give CPR, because that's what someone does if they actually care about the sanctity of life. I don't know why the parole board just gave her a slap on the back. You're doing great. And it was even like, when he was interviewing her, I don't understand. How did you not? It was Rodriguez, not Paul. Like, Paul's a clown. It was Rodriguez. I like Rodriguez. But he said, I don't know. I don't know what happened exactly. You hit something and you took off. There's blood all over your windshield. I would have loved to know when she had told the interviewer the words that she used when she told the parole interviewer how the accident happened. But imagine if someone does lie at their parole hearing and they are intoxicated, and here they are putting on a show. I was scared and I left. You were so scared, then you took your license plate off and you got a ride out of there. I have no additional information on this case to talk about what happened to the person who gave her a ride, or how long. They tracked it down pretty quickly, because of the pictures. And if she was sober and if she had stayed at the scene of the accident, I imagine she would have gotten probation. 15 miles over the speed limit, making a right-hand turn for a new driver. It's not something to put you in prison for, but you run away, you do the whole evading thing. Yeah, she got a prison sentence. And we may never see her again, you know? But what never gets old to me is just the way that so many show up to these parole hearings that seem to have no care in the world for the crime that they did. No emotions, no tear, no personal trauma. And before I forget the last thing, when they ask her at the beginning, what's your preferred pronoun? And I just, it only hit me. I'm only laughing because it's like there's a certain question. You never ask someone, are you pregnant? You know, they have a belly. It's just, you side on the side. You take the side of caution. You don't ask someone if they're pregnant. But I never thought about this. Asking someone, what's your preferred pronoun? It's like, what? I mean, what I would think is, what do I like that? Do I look like I'm not my preferred? What? Why are you asking me that? I mean, how embarrassing.
Not only are you charged with robbery, but you, in the midst of it all, you ran over the victim. And neither you or the co-defendant seem to have shown any kind of remorse or understanding of the gravity of that part of the crime. Have you considered where you were at and why you wouldn't stop?
I mean, I was not driving the vehicle. To be honest, I couldn't get him to stop the car. He didn't even know that he ran her over at first. And I obviously realized that she was hurt and injured. I don't really have an excuse for that. I understand that she was severely injured by this. I didn't know that his intention. I was not in the right state of mind. I trusted him, and everything that he was telling me was not accurate as to her. Like, they had a prior relationship also, and I think we were both very misled. Me and the victim were very misled by him about his involvement with both of us.
Isn't that fascinating that at her parole hearing, all of a sudden she finds herself in the same category as the victim, as the woman who they robbed and then ran over with their car, who then they took their credit cards and went on a spending spree. She's all of a sudden like, I don't know. You know, he was lying to us. We both thought we were in a relationship with him. See, I'm a victim, obviously. And it never surprises me. It's like the workings of the mind of a felon, or even still an addict, dare I say. I mean, I don't know. It's they don't really go into a lot of the details of her crime, but they do a pretty good job giving her a good 1-2 punch, so to speak. And it doesn't help that she has, I think they said, the worst record for anyone who would come up for parole. Which they'll touch on in the parole hearing. But in a nutshell, a judge sentenced her in 2022 to 10 years in prison. But of course, all of that is suspended except for 45 months. So she doesn't have a lot riding on this parole hearing, but it still always makes a big difference. Everyone wants to get released early. Now, let's go take a dive. Listen carefully to what she says, and I'll unpack it at the end.
Can I read what I wrote? Is that okay?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I get nervous, obviously. So, all right, to begin with, I know I would like to apologize to my victims and their families, as also my own family. My actions caused a lot of pain and suffering all around, and I let down not only myself, but my parents and my children. This guilt is a burden I fully expect to carry for the rest of my life. Sorry doesn't seem adequate, but it's all that I've been left with after my choices and since my involvement with my co-defendant. If I could go back in time and never get in the car with him that day, or better yet, have the self-respect or the self-preservation to walk away from a toxic relationship, I would do it in a second. But I know I can't take any of that back, so I'll have to settle with learning how to forgive myself and move forward
and hopefully find a way to turn the worst decisions I've ever made into something positive. I do have a few ideas about how I can do that, including changing my major and going back to school for my bachelor's, except in psychology instead of the medical field. I have hope that I'll be able to use these difficult experiences to prevent others with mental health issues, domestic violence survivors, and addicts from making the same bad decisions that I did. I know how lonely that can feel, and I want to make a difference in other at-risk lives. Another area I feel the need to address is my difficulty in assimilating and fitting in here at York. It will come to no surprise that I came in here a broken person, physically, and a traumatized individual mentally. Not only did I witness David almost dying in front of me when I got arrested, but also I had an overwhelming sense of shame and fear over the consequences of my actions, not for myself, but for my victims and their loved ones. I also began suffering physical difficulties due to my own accident and disabilities that came into trauma. I was confined to the psych unit for the first months of my stay, which combined with my obvious physical impairments make me an easy target. I think you guys are probably familiar with my medical history, but I can explain more about that afterwards. Even now, I have one of my screws partially covering my spinal cord and applying pressure on it. So this has made it impossible for me to play possum when I've been attacked by other inmates. And self-defense here is grounds for a Class A fighting ticket. And I don't think they care who starts the fight. Dealing with my physical health, as well as addressing the key issues behind my mental health and addiction problems, remains at the top of my list for things to get done when I get out. I plan to see my original surgeon and find a therapist and psychologist who specializes in PTSD and trauma, and find one-on-one counseling that I have been unable to have here at York. I'm also working on coming off my methadone maintenance, but I have every intention of getting further substance abuse treatment on the outside. Before my current relapse, I had celebrated 10 years of sobriety, and I know I can surpass this goal with the right kind of determination. Since I've been incarcerated, I've attended numerous group therapy groups, completed the Tier 2 substance program, signed up for and completed the parenting classes, and completed the culinary vocational program with top scores. More currently, I've held my current tier job for about 8 months, and I'm actively participating in Defy Ventures to continue healing and trying to better myself while I work towards the skills that I'll need to gain employment on my reentry. I do plan to do their follow-up training on the outside, as well as utilize their national network to help find a good job. In conclusion, I've worked hard to get mentally where I am today in spite of the odds against me, and I've done as much research as I can about what to expect, as well as what programs are offered to ensure myself success going forward. I'm excited to go back to school and find employment, and I'm motivated to regain sobriety. I really want to reunify with my kids at some point once I've reached some stability. I realize that all the sorries in the world don't excuse my behavior, but I'm willing to do the work that I need to keep moving forward with my life, and I plan to atone for my actions in whatever ways I can. Specifically, I want to help others see that they don't have to let the pain they feel push them to make bad choices that will ruin their lives. And I'll do everything in my power to put myself in a better and healthier position in life and make sure I don't have to face these kinds of life and death, lose-lose situations ever again. And in the meantime, thank you for listening.
All right, Ms. Murphy, thank you for your statement. We do have questions for you. When we're done with our questions, we'll deliberate and give you our decision. We'll begin with my colleague, Ms. Palmieri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Ms. Murphy. Thank you for putting together that statement for us. You covered a lot of ground there, gave us a lot to consider with what you've been going through. I wanted to first talk to you a little bit about the charges that you're here before us today. Very serious. You know, I'm not really sure that you have expressed it, in my opinion, an appreciation for the seriousness of them. I mean, not only are you charged with robbery, but you, in the midst of it all, you ran over the victim. And neither you or the co-defendant seem to have shown any kind of remorse or understanding of the gravity of that part of the crime. Have you considered where you were at and why you wouldn't stop?
I mean, I was not driving the vehicle. To be honest, I couldn't get him to stop the car. He didn't even know that he ran her over at first. And I obviously realized that she was hurt and injured. I don't really have an excuse for that. I understand that she was severely injured by this. I didn't know that his intention. I was not in the right state of mind. I trusted him, and everything that he was telling me was not accurate as to her. Like, they had a prior relationship also, and I think we were both very misled. Me and the victim were very misled by him about his involvement with both of us.
Were you blackmailing the victim?
No, she was giving him money every day for the whole 2 years that I knew him prior to that.
She was just giving him money for.
She was writing him scripts at first for stuff, and she was also giving him money for his use. So.
And why, when you think about that, why do you think she would be giving him money?
I honestly don't. At the time, it was. Yeah, no, I know it was not a great situation. It was my understanding that he was trying to leave that relationship and try to move on with his life at that point. But obviously that's not how it ended up.
What did you think was going to happen when you were there with your co-defendant?
He told me that he was ending it with her, and that I was there to witness that because I didn't believe him, because he'd said that to me before. And I had actually left him the week before that, and I was in detox. And he was supposed to be turning himself in and going to jail for 6 months. And he basically reached out to me and broke down, and he promised me that he was, stepping away from that relationship and that he was going to get help. And I caved, basically. It's no excuse at all. I understand that. I was afraid of him dying, to be honest with you. Like, when I met him, he was a mess. He was so high he couldn't drive the vehicle most of the time. And
I just want to clarify something. So, but you were both using, and you were both getting drugs from the victim or getting scripts from the victim. You were both using. So when it's just hard to sort of understand or believe that you didn't know what was going on, because it went on for a while.
Yeah, it was. He would leave me places a lot when he would go see her. And at that point, I had just gone through a divorce, and I was homeless, and he was the only person that was helping me at all. I had found my boyfriend dead from a brain aneurysm in October, and I pretty much pushed all my friends away at that point. And I honestly was afraid of losing him at that point because I felt like I didn't have anybody else left. But I mean, obviously that didn't work out for me.
Well, the way the information that we have basically says that, the victim was illegally writing prescriptions and was arrested for that. And you and your co-defendant were threatening her and blackmailing to turn her in, yet she had already been going to court, and as of October 2020. And this incident occurred after that. And I guess the other part that's hard to reconcile with is that you wouldn't know that you ran somebody over.
No, he didn't know that, but I did, obviously. He said he didn't. He thought he hit a curb, is what he said. And I told him that he hit her, and he asked what he should do. And I said, you should stop. And he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't. We hadn't done drugs that day. And for him, the need to not be sick, that overwhelmed anything else for him. It always did.
All right. And then you took the victim's credit cards and tried to use them, and also you have another charge for robbing a gas station. So the scenario continued all within that short period of time?
Mhm.
Okay. So you're incarcerated, you were in the Tier 4 program for a short time. How long were you in it?
I think 3 months,
3
something
months?
like that.
Okay, and why were you removed?
I had difficulties getting along with a lot of the girls over there. And then I was also having health issues. I got pneumonia in the building. And then I was sick at that point, so I was unable to participate in the groups. And at one point they told me that I was triggering the girls because I was falling asleep. And I wasn't really comfortable in the dorm setting at all over there either.
Do you think it had anything to do with your disciplinary reports?
The issue with the CO, there's a CO Dominski. I had written to Tramachi about that. I witnessed him tampering with food over there, and then he had written me a ticket, and I accepted it just so I wouldn't be like further like harassed by him, basically. But he was actually suspended for 2 weeks when they looked at the report and saw what had happened. He had written me a ticket saying that he was inspecting my bunk or something along those lines. At the time I was actually standing at the front door to go to medical. I wasn't near my bunk, but I was afraid that he would get more angry if I questioned it. So I accepted the ticket, but then I spoke to Counselor Supervisor Tramachi about it, and that's when he was suspended for a couple weeks. He wasn't there anymore, but the damage was pretty much done at that point.
You also have a few fighting tickets, disruption tickets. I hear what you said, your explanation of the tickets in your opening statement about not being able to defend yourself or attempting to defend yourself. However, what stands out to me is that you have 13 tickets in a very short amount. We have a number of individuals that come before us that are in the same amount of time or longer and are able to get through day to day without having any issues. So the fighting tickets, disruption tickets, insulting language.
That's from the CO, as well as the disrupting one. That's also the same CO that I had the issues with. And if you also notice that my punishment for the last one, the disrupting, it was changed because the guy, Lucier, he does the disciplinary review, the disciplinary review board. He knows that there's more to the situation than that. Like, there's no point in fighting the tickets here, ma'am. There's not, like, you're not going to win. So I accepted the ticket.
So let's go back to your programming. Because the ticket, we have our information and
and I've only had two since I left since I got into the current tier that I'm on right now. I've only had the one ticket in February, and that's when I've held the job. Since then, I've completed, I think, 2 or 3 programs since then, and I'm in Defy now. So I realize that I definitely have had difficulty settling in here. Like, we get moved around a lot, and once you start issues with certain people, it's hard to get away from them. It's a small facility. And honestly, like, you're forced to defend yourself. I don't fit in well here as far as like my speech, I guess, per se. I don't really know exactly, but people have told me that it's because I'm smart or something. And I don't think that that's necessarily it, because obviously I'm not smart enough to stay out of trouble, but I haven't got along well with other people recently. Recently, I've been able to, just try to avoid it, and I have a job, so I stay busy, and I just, put everything out of my head and just do what I need to do. But it's also a lot because where I am right now, the people that are around me are being more like held to a standard of they're not allowed to bully people, and if I have issues, I have people that I can talk to about it, and it's dealt with, instead of it being like a festering thing and it turning into something that blows up because I'm not able to handle the conflict myself and there's nobody to intervene with it.
Okay. All right. So let's move on just a little bit here. So you were removed from the Tier 4 program. You were in there for about 3 months, and now you've completed the Tier 2 program. You had done some prior treatments on the outside, correct, while you were in the community?
Not in years. I had a really long period of sobriety. Like I said, I had tried to go to detox about a week before all of this ended up happening. But
Okay.
I left because of to be with the codependent, and obviously that's something that I regret. I should have stayed. So
So let's talk about the Tier 2 program. You completed that. What do you think was most helpful from that program? What's your biggest takeaway?
Just learning a lot of coping skills, basically. And then realizing that it's like you kind of have to get to the root of why I was using in the first place and try to figure out how I can fix that, basically. Because if I don't, address those issues, I'm just going to end up relapsing, basically. And if I end up relapsing, I could end up in the same positions around the same kind of people and the same kind of scenarios. When I stay sober, my life is completely different. I have my kids in my house and stuff. And
I mean, I think we can all appreciate how you would and understand that a person makes better decisions when they're not under the influence.
right.
And your plan to be back in the community, I have that you want to go to a halfway house.
Yeah. I don't really have family here in the state anymore. My dad's in New York and he's willing to help me a little bit, but I'm pretty much like hoping that I can use the resources from parole to try to get like maybe housing or something like that. Or I don't know what else exactly you guys can offer, but it's going to be pretty much me relying on the help of the community for a little while, just because I have been here for 3.5 years roughly, and I don't have like contacts in the state anymore. And everybody that I did know recently, I wouldn't go to for help because I'm not sure that their lives are probably not much different than when I left. So I'm hoping that I could use the stability, you know what I'm saying, and the rules that they have, and it'll help me basically adjust more, because I know it's going to be a difference. So.
What do you think your needs are in the community when you talk about resources? What does that look like for you?
Well, like I said, I know I need to get like a one-on-one psychiatrist or therapist. I have a lot of trauma issues that I haven't really addressed here because there's just not that kind of therapy here. There's not the clinicians for that kind of thing. And then the group therapy, as I said, you end up sharing stuff with people that it's generally used against you, to be honest. And I know that they do their best. Like the therapist or the social worker that's in my building now is really good. But I just need I need one-on-one mental health help. I know I do. I went through a lot of trauma prior to my relapse that I know I haven't dealt with it yet. And I've tried to here, but there's not groups for that here. There's not. So.
Okay. All right, Ms. Murphy. And I also had a note that you were going to apply for Social Security disability.
I need surgery. I had surgery prior to my coming in. I broke my back in 8 places. I got pushed out a 3rd-story window in Hartford. There's more issues with it, but my back is the most serious. There's 2 rods and 5 screws in my spine, and one of them rejected and has been moving around my back this whole time. And right now it's positioned so it's pushing on my spinal cord and going over my spinal cord. So I need surgery to remove that and possibly put it back where it's supposed to be because the damage has spread. I actually have osteoporosis now also because.
I'm going to interrupt you because we're live streaming. This is a public hearing, so I don't want you to share all of your medical history online.
There's a lot though. There's a lot of health that the medical, obviously prison medical care is not the best. And I've had a lot of problems because of that specifically. And I need very extensive surgery when I get out, basically. So I'm planning on going to school I almost have a bachelor's degree. I needed about 2 more semesters. So I'm hoping that that's something that I can do while I'm unable to work, or that I can find some kind of remote job. I know with COVID, there's been a lot more of people being able to work like on computers and such like that. Obviously I can't do any heavy lifting, so I think that part of my life is over.
Well, I do think that you've given some thought to what your options are, and I'm sure that'll be very helpful. Okay, thank you, Ms. Murphy. I have no other questions.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy, did you hack into the victim's accounts, any of her financial accounts? It's
Yes.
a simple question.
Yes.
The answer is yes. Okay.
Yes.
Did you assault her prior to this incident?
No.
You never had any physical altercations with her?
No, and there was an incident where that was during when she was selling, giving him the pills, and she had called the police because he had just driven away when she had given him the drugs. And she said that I hit her. So he was like driving, we were running from the cops literally at that point. And he wouldn't stop. There was plenty of high-speed chases that I ended up getting involved with him.
Yeah, you kept going back and involving yourself some more.
Yep. I definitely didn't have a lot of, like I said, any kind of self-preservation or respect for myself at that point.
Yeah. Why aren't you in contact with your children?
Their father and I had some issues. He was abusive, and when my boyfriend passed away, the kids ended up going and living with him and his family. And my kids are younger also. I am in contact with my oldest son and my mother.
They're not younger, they're 7 and 11.
Right, but when I left, they were a lot younger than that. And this isn't
Okay,
really
so my question was, why aren't you in contact with your children?
I am in contact with the adults in their lives.
Okay. Did you file a motion in court to try to get phone calls, visitation, something?
I filed an appearance, yeah, and I've been waiting to hear back from them.
Okay, good. All right.
And yeah, once I have an address, I figured I would file for visitation and stuff like that also. I've been forced to contact like his parents because my ex-husband is not very like, he wasn't much of a parent to begin with, to be honest. It's basically the grandparents that are taking care of the children at this point.
Yeah, so they're left with 2 non-parents is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah. So they're real victims here too.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ms. Murphy, I want to explain something to you. In a parole hearing, what we look for is change, growth, rehabilitation, hard work. I don't see that in your file. In my 16 years here, I have never seen a poor evaluation. Generally, they sprinkle in some fair, some good, some excellent remarks. Poor, yours poor across the board. I've never seen it. In 2 evaluations signed by 2 different people. So your theory about someone having it out for you would not hold true in this case. You were not removed from the program. We have the notes from the program due to medical issues. You were removed because you violated the rules. You stole multiple things. You were insulting people. You had contraband. That's why you were removed. 13 tickets is unacceptable. We're seeing 7 women today with 0 tickets, 0. So it is possible, ma'am, okay? You need to start taking more accountability for your actions and stop making excuses, or you're not gonna make it through your 4 years of probation. You're done here in 4 months, regardless of what we do here today, but 4 years of probation will be a long road for you. So continue to work on yourself, please. Mr. Rodriguez.
Madam Chair, you asked all the questions I was going to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Give us a few minutes to discuss your case and we'll get back to you shortly with our decisions. Ms. Palmieri?
So I think Ms. Murphy has done some work. Completing the Tier 2 program, I think, is a step in the right direction. She definitely has the need for substance abuse and mental health services, whether it's at the facility or when she gets out. So in terms of her appreciating that about herself and the need for to continue to either get employment or get a job, I think is a step in the right direction. Or get a job, go to school, that's what I meant. Or, however, all my notes say that there's very little acceptance of responsibility for anything in the file, from the charges that she's before us today on, to the disciplinary reports, to the removal from the program, to any kind of participation or under the disciplinary reports, her family situation. The pre-sentence report was as disappointing as was her interview with the parole officer and the supporting documents in terms of seeing any change, seeing any appreciation for the severity of the situation. I mean, regardless of what the victim was doing, they ran her over. She was severely injured, and it's hard. It's just not plausible to think that you wouldn't have an understanding of that. I do think Ms. Murphy has potential to educate herself and be successful. However, I don't think we've seen what we need today in terms of suitability for parole. So I would not be in favor of discretion.
I agree, and I think I just spelled out all the reasons, the nature and circumstance, for institutional adjustment, inadequate evidence of change. Mr. Rodriguez?
I would concur with my two colleagues. Mr. Failure to comply with the programs of poor performance in her attendance of the workshops, and I would agree with Panama Palmer that she's trying to get some places, but I think she needs to be able to accept some more of a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the same place, Chair.
All right, in the matter of Lauren Murphy, inmate number 347519, I'll make a motion to deny parole for the following reasons: the nature and circumstance of the offenses, poor institutional adjustment, that's the disciplinary report, and inadequate evidence of offender change. Do we want to add anything else? Good. And is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We wish you the best, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Hey, it was nice to see. It was nice to see her get denied again. Just like playing the victim card, it's totally absurd. And I like how they called her out on her whole parenting thing. How she has like no relationship with her children. It's like, are you kidding me? And Server should actually found something in like a divorce court proceeding with her, where the judge ruled that her, I guess, the father of the children actually got full custody, and he ruled it because of in particularly of how Server should actually put in the notes that she's like an ogre. and an ogre is because I said, what do you mean by this, ogre? And so he says, well, ogre generally means man-eating villain. and in general parlance infers an evil, cruel, terrifying person. And that's what he pulled out of the from what the judge put in the transcripts for the divorce proceedings. So she was playing a lot of games, and here she is in this vehicle saying, I had no idea, it's all my fault. So I was curious, because they do have articles on the man that she was in the vehicle with her boyfriend. And it was interesting as she kept flip-flopping. First, her last boyfriend died from a brain aneurysm. I'm sure that's exactly what it was. Nothing else nefarious going on there. No narcotic involvement, I'm sure. And then this person, he really needed help. He's just a good guy who needed help. But he wasn't being honest with us. It's like, oh, lady, she got out. She's out and about now, and she still is out of trouble, to her credit. And at the time of this parole hearing, she would have been out for about 1 full month. So now the man that her co-defendant, he got a 10-year sentence, but I do wonder when we'll see him out for parole, because we see in Connecticut 10-year sentence, it means nothing. Let's go through the crime. So man in critical condition after stabbing himself repeatedly before arrest. So this was like initially kidnapping charges. Apparently, I guess they kidnapped her. So a man and woman, who we just saw, wanted kidnapping charges, were captured Tuesday after they were located with a stolen vehicle in Hartford, and the man attempted to kill himself before the pair's arrest. David and Lauren were taken into custody in Farmington police and served warrants on a series of kidnapping, assault, robbery charges. O'Brien, who police said stabbed himself repeatedly in front of detectives, remained hospitalized in critical condition. But as we know, he survived. The incident occurred just before 3:30 p.m. Tuesday, when Farmington investigators alerted Hartford police that the pair of suspects with active felony arrest warrants was believed to be in South End in a carjacked vehicle. She played the victim again. Remember this? I didn't want. Shut up. Detectives followed O'Brien into the business, but he fled out the back of the store when he noticed them. Upon seeing the detectives, the male suspect fled to the rear of the store, produced a knife, and began repeatedly stabbing himself in the neck. Detectives and officers on the scene immediately began life-saving procedures. O'Brien was transported to the hospital and was arrested as carjacking the vehicle. Farmington police took both O'Brien and Murphy into custody on their arrest warrants, even as O'Brien's remained hospitalized. No other details are immediately made available of the case. The indicted suspects and victim Farmington kidnapped case knew each other and were and that it was not a random act. Okay. So she's a good girl. It's not her fault. She's doing nothing wrong. It's all his fault, etc., etc., etc. But we might see her again in the parole revocation hearing. If we do, we have a playlist for it called "The Return of." Now, I hope we don't. But when you fail that way in prison with all those write-ups, it's not a good indication for succeeding on the outside. So I'll keep you posted on that. Check out that playlist. And with that, I'll let you.
Not only are you charged with robbery, but in the midst of it all, you ran over the victim. And neither you or the co-defendant seem to have shown any kind of remorse or understanding of the gravity of that part of the crime. Have you considered where you were at and why you wouldn't stop?
I mean, I was not driving the vehicle. To be honest, I couldn't get him to stop the car. He didn't even know that he ran her over at first. And I obviously realized that she was hurt and injured. I don't really have an excuse for that. I understand that she was severely injured by this. I didn't know that his intention. I was not in the right state of mind. I trusted him, and everything that he was telling me was not accurate as to her. They had a prior relationship also, and I think we were both very misled. Me and the victim were very misled by him about his involvement with both of us. It was nerve-wracking, and that doesn't excuse my actions. I absolutely should have stopped, and I regret that every day. You understand?
And I appreciated you, apologizing in your opening statement. Very short statement, but I appreciate you apologize to the victim and you understand this, and I get a sense you do understand the severity of the situation now. But I mean, there was blood on the windshield. It was, I'm just having a hard time with, figuring out why you didn't stop.